At this point, we have created an incredible swiper that is working, marvelously. Now it's time we actually start saving our swipes to our database. So to do that, we can go to let's go to our code. Let's go to our swiper Livewire component. In here, the first thing we're going to do is, here when retrieving the users, we want to make sure that we do not also get the auth user, because we don't want to swipe on ourselves. So for that, we can, after the limit, we can say something like where the ID, here we're going to say less than and greater than sign. Sometimes I confuse them, but yeah. Next parameter is going to be the auth ID, open bracket, close there. Right now, in order for you to use this, please make sure that for this route, the app, make sure the route is protected by auth. So if you go to the web, make sure that here in the app which calls the home, you have the middleware auth here. Alright, now with that being said, after excluding this authenticate the user from these users, now we can go ahead and start listening to our events. But first, we're going to create a function inside here. Let's call this one swiped right. Now this function are first going to, it's a good practice. What I do myself, if I'm creating production, you want to make sure that you always check if the user is authenticated, and always authorize and check your methods before you use them, because you don't want any unwanted users or any manipulation. So here you can say first start by saying abort unless auth check, just to avoid some weird error showing up in the user's screen. So make sure the user is authenticated. If not, then in the second parameter we can say 401, which is the code for unauthorized. So the unless just checks unless this is true, show this. Right, after that, now we can here, actually let's test this one. So here we can get the user model right here. We're gonna pass an ID to this user, to this method, sorry. After passing the ID, let's test it by outputting it there when I swipe right. Alright, now at this point we're not really getting the ID, so this might not work, but let's go check it out. Refresh that. Now if I swipe right, okay, it's not really working. I don't know why I expected it to. Actually, before we check, we're actually supposed to say here hashtag open bracket. Here let's use the on attribute. This one, make sure you import this as in use this at the top. So we can say you're going to listen to swiped right event. Now this event is going to trigger this function. Now it will work. So now we have not yet passed the variable, but let's go check it out. Here if I refresh, now if I swipe right, you see the function is being called here quite right, but the user is empty. Why? Because we have not passed any ID to this function. Like that. So for that, let's go to our swiper played, and in here let's pass the ID to all the functions that are firing. We can first start by going to the init. In here let's go to hammer time pan on end. In here we triggered some event somewhere down here down the line. Alright, right here if the user swipe right, we're gonna fire this event that we just listened to recently. Now in here we can say the open bracket 1, let's pass the user in some single quotes. Let's access PHP and say user ID. Right, now if we go refresh that, now if I swipe right, you see that, okay, fine, now the method has been called and the user is actually retrieved from the database via this one. Now you can see the user is this name. So this is working fine. Now let's go ahead and actually start pass the user ID to all the events that are being called. So after that, let's just copy this. It's gonna be the same everywhere. Here in the swipe left, paste it there. Swipe up, paste it there. Make sure you add a comma between passing this user parameter and that. Where else are we doing that? Yeah, here in the X data, in the swipe right function, in here, pass that to the user, also in there. pass that to, in there, pass that to. So this is how you pass data from your JavaScript with Livewire to your PHP. This is as simple as that. Now here you have to make sure that this user parameter is the same as the one you're getting from here. Alright, because if I say something like random, it won't work because we're not passing any random variable to this function. But now after doing that, we're now gonna check if user is not equals to null, and then we can go ahead and create our swipe. Now for the swipe, here we can use something different, such as like a protected method. So we can say create swipe right. This we can here, let's create a method here, a protected function. Let's call it create swipe. This is gonna get two parameters here. First is the user and the type. Alright. Now before you do anything here, let's go ahead and actually call this one here in our swipe right function. Here let's say this create swipe. Let's pass this user and let's pass the type as right, since it's swipe right here. Let's go ahead and create our swipe in here. In here, let's return now if user is already swiped. We don't want to create duplicate swipe unless on special conditions. So here let's check if auth user has swiped this user, then return null. Here we're just trying to put in some security measures to avoid. We're just going to make sure that the user is not swiped before creating a swipe. After that, now down here, let's create a swipe. Let's call the swipe model. Create. The user ID is going to be the auth ID, the one who is creating the swipe. And then the swiped user ID is going to be this guy's user ID. Next, it's going to be the type. The type is going to be from here. It's going to be dynamic. Yes. So I think that's it. Now let's go and try it out. So now if I refresh that, the professor here, Dimitris, if I swipe this guy, you see nothing happened here, but if I go to the database, here let me refresh that. Here we have the swipes. If I check, here it has been created. Here it's saying swipe user ID 10, and the user ID here is 12, and the type is right, like that. So if I refresh, we're still getting the user. Now here you can see we have this issue whereby the user, we've already swiped him, but it's showing up here again. This is not really convenient, but even if I swipe, the record won't be saved again, because here if I refresh, you see it's not going to be saved again because of this one, because of this check here saying we have already swiped it. But for more convenience, let's go ahead and actually, if you remember in our swipe model, in here, no, actually in our user model, in here we added this scope saying where not swiped, so as to prevent the users that have already been swiped from being retrieved. Let's go ahead and use this scope right now. So in here in the render, we can simply say where this one not swiped. Now if we go here and check, if we refresh it, we have an error here on relationship. Alright, here on relationship goals, if you get this error on your screen, probably you're gonna get it too. Go to relationship goals in the swiper. Here add a question mark here so as to cut if the value is null, we're not gonna get a null value. To make the value nullable here, just add that. So now if we go and check, it should work. So now if you see, I refresh this and we're not getting the user that has been swiped already. If I swipe this guy, Ezekiel, if I refresh, that Ezekiel guy is not going to show again. But if I check my database, here, this guy has been swiped, right? So Now let's go ahead and create our swipe functions for left and up. So now if I go, let's go to our swiper. Here let's just duplicate this one. For swiped left, here for swiped left event, change this one to swipe left. Here change the type to left. That's it. Now let's copy this again one more time. Down there. Here the event we're listening to is swiped up. The function name, let's change it to swiped up. Here the type, let's change it to up too. So that's why I created this private method, to avoid duplicating everything. Right now, if I go, refresh that, here if I swipe to the left, nope. You see, and then I go to the database, here I check, now the left is working perfectly. So let me refresh that. Now if I try to use this button saying swipe up, I can swipe left, right, up, and I go check the record, and it's still all working here, left, right, up. So that is working fine. Okay, now I can actually go ahead and finish all of these until there's nothing left. So this is working fine. Now for me, if you're using Table Plus, for me, I can simply just go ahead and delete this, select all, delete and save. And if I go and refresh, the swipes are gonna come back. Now for this, just to finish off our video, here let's go to our swiper, now blade. In here, just before X data, let's add a wire key. Let's add the wire key will be equals to swipe user ID. This is just to avoid any DOM diffing issues. Now if I refresh and I start swiping again, nope, like, nope, like, super like, nope, and then swipe like, and the record are going to be saved in our database. It's working fine. Yeah, so I think that's it for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one.